of humanity's main event. The recent global controversy regarding the veritable fires of Babylon in the Amazon is a poignant reminder of the importance of our land and our forests. So land in its bewildering complexities go hand in hand with biodiversity and climate change. Thus, more than ever, the voices of the international community must ring out loud with the necessity and desirability of land degradation neutrality, its targets and measures. We have accepted these. Enwrapped in all this are the vital issues touching and concerning poverty, infrastructural development, bushfires, deforestation, unsustainable agricultural practices, coastal erosion, pollution, natural disasters, the efficacious application of science and technology, capacity building and education, and a robust legislative and regulatory framework. All of these things demand substantial resource allocations. Look, they're not going to come from countries which can barely feed their populations. The resources have to come from countries which have the more developed economies, which have a history of relationship with poorer countries. And the resources, if we are serious with what we agreed upon, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals adopted in September 2015 at the General Assembly of the United Nations, it is agreed that we must have a partnership. And if we're going to have a partnership, we can't seriously expect that those who, for a variety of historical reasons, are impoverished, that they're the ones who must bear the greater burden, when in fact they have already suffered through colonialism, through imperialism. People don't like to hear these words, but we have to be honest and truthful with one another. If we're going to have not a confrontation, but a conversation as to what is necessary and desirable. So, we need substantial resources. We don't want to hear the pledges when those who make the pledges do not really mean them. And it's a case of taking the fool a little further by having us believe that those pledges are real when they are in fact a mirage. This is one earth that we have. Look, what happens in North Africa affects migration and security issues in Europe. It is in everybody's interest that these matters be efficaciously addressed. There is nowhere else for us to hide. Of course, in this partnership, it is also a responsibility in the less developed countries to mainstream land and land development into the overall development, sustainable development processes, so that we don't get a free pass. We have our own obligations and our own responsibilities. It is an often mistakenly held belief, in fact, a serious misconception, that the UNCCD has little or nothing to do with small island developing states, because deserts are the province of continental Africa and Asia, but not of the islands, for example, in the Caribbean and the Pacific. The truth is that land degradation and drought affect all and sundry places. We have heard the examples given by Amina. We have heard them by Ibrahim. We have heard from the minister, the distinguished minister from India. Look, Haiti is part of a Caribbean island, and it is a proverbial poster child for historical land degradation, which has led to much impoverishment of an extraordinary nation, the land of the heroic Black Jacobins. But you know, many persons say that Haiti, they're responsible for all what is happening there themselves. But when you take into account that when the Haitian Revolution established the state of Haiti, defeated colonialism, slaves, the first successful slave rebellion in history, the departing colonial power, France, subsequently imposed reparations from the very slaves, the ex-slaves, for they having freed themselves. And they had to make those payments for over 100 years. Those are realities. And when you see Haiti, we have to make sure that the international agencies, the developed countries, and especially those who have a historic responsibility in relation to Haiti, seek to explore a genuine partnership for the correction of historic wrongs and for assisting us in developing a better future. Additional to the host of factors, natural and man-made, which have historically degraded the land in the Caribbean islands, there is currently the challenge of the annual appearance in our seas and on our beaches of the sargassum seaweed, which threatens to despoil our lands and suffocate our tourism. This threat demands the urgent attention of UNCCD and its Secretariat. This matter has to be put at the international level, the issue of the sargassum seaweed. Much of the land degradation in small island developing states is directly related to and caused by climate change. And we know the issues: global warming, the rise of the level of the sea, the battering of the coastal areas, the damage to our rivers and their banks, landslides and deforestation, horrendous hurricanes and storms of increasing frequency and ferocity. They're all connected with climate change, to which our SIDS contribute little or nothing. In domestic law, if you have a nuisance which comes from your land onto my land, and it could be a nuisance by noise, by water, it could be any fact which constitutes a nuisance in law. You have to pay for the loss and damage which I suffer. In this world, the situation is really cockeyed. We don't contribute anything of any significance at all to climate change. You do all what you want to do. I'm talking about developed economies, cause damage to us, and then all you want to do is to provide SOPs. I am advising, not in any confrontational manner, that all of us have to work together at this. Otherwise, we are going to come to grief. We have seen it happen before, and it's going to happen on a much larger scale. We must not allow short-sighted leaders of powerful countries not to recognize the truth of what I'm speaking here today in New Delhi. Two years ago, hurricanes and storms lashed Dominica and Barbuda, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, St. Martin's, and Anguilla. This year, there is a destruction and tremendous loss of lives on two islands in the archipelagic state of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Immediate support is required urgently to the people of the Bahamas for relief, recovery, and reconstruction. I want this message to ring out loudly at COP14. A lot of people are dead, and these two islands have to start from scratch. We in CARICOM are actively in solidarity with the Bahamas, but without substantial extra regional support, the people of the Bahamas are going to take a long, long time to recover. Our islands cannot truly survive if global warming exceeds 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And we are on course for much more than that. These are perilous times. A succession of leaders of religion, politics, science, business, and public administration have wisely advised over the recent decades, particularly since the Rio Summit of 1992, that the unsustainable extraction of resources from our lands and seas by a rapacious economic system hell-bent on private accumulation and profit, without regard for humanity as a whole, cannot continue. Yet, the international community seems relatively powerless to contain this unwholesome and unsustainable extraction of resources. Look, we got to be serious. We just can't take the pious statements anymore. Meaningful corrective action is required. You know it and I know it. For humanity's survival and sustainable development. I don't believe for 1 minute when I hear people tell me that this or that leader of a big country, or this or that big country, that they don't understand the science of climate change. I don't believe it for one moment. They know the science. But they're thinking that if they have another 20 or 30 years, for instance, of fossil fuel, they can strengthen and deepen their hegemony over the world. I don't want you to give anybody a pass to tell them that they don't understand, because it's so simple to understand. It is their interests, their economic interests, which runs counter to their internalizing and understanding of the basic science in this matter. Today, our world faces a bundle of interlocking challenges to be urgently and satisfactorily addressed. Climate change, land degradation, and their consequences. Scarcity of vital resources such as water, energy, and strategic minerals. The growing inequality in the distribution of the Earth's resources. The constant threats to world peace and security. The advances in artificial intelligence and their socioeconomic impact. The aging of the world's population. The organization of the global economic system. The governance arrangements in individual nation states. The growing threat of nativism and unilateralism. And the ongoing quest for among right-thinking persons for a necessary and desirable multilateralism. That's why we are here. The issues before us today, I reiterate, have assumed unusual and unprecedented seriousness. And they are thus urgent. They're existential to our lives, our living and production. And despite the awesome nature of the challenges, we cannot afford to be pessimistic. There is nowhere to go. We are on Earth. These are not times for lamentations. Therefore, optimism, clear thinking, and concerted action. And I say, all the factors have come together to help us to have such a distinguished leader as Prime Minister Modi, to help us in leading this charge. I thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your very passionate and empathetic message, and a message that we all own the responsibility and need to walk the talk in all sincerity and honesty. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I take the distinct honor of requesting our Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, to kindly address this august gathering. A man with a vision and a man on a mission towards creating a beautiful, sustainable planet.
My friend Prime Minister Rav Gonsalves, Srimati Amina ji, Ibrahim Chiao, my minister colleague Prakash Javadekar, Babul Supriyo, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to India for the 14th session of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Convention to combat desertification. I thank the Executive Secretary, Mr. Ibrahim Chiao, for having brought this convention to India. The record registration of this program reflects the global commitment to the task of reversing land degradation. India also looks forward to making an effective contribution as we take over the co-presidency for a 2-year term. Friends, for ages, we in India have always given importance to land. In Indian culture, the earth is held as sacred and treated as a mother. While getting up in morning, when we touch the earth with our feet, we seek forgiveness of Mother Earth by praying Samudravasane Devi, Parvatastana Mandale, Vishnupatni Namastubhyam, Padasparsam Kshamaswame. Friends, climate and environment impact both biodiversity and land. It is widely accepted that the world is facing the negative impact of climate change. This is seen in a loss of land and plants and animal species facing threats of becoming extinct. Climate change is also leading to land degradation of various kinds, be it due to rise in sea levels and wave action, erratic rainfall and storms, and sandstorms caused by hot temperatures. Ladies and gentlemen, India has hosted global gathering through the COP for all the 3 conventions. This reflects our commitment to addressing all the 3 main concerns of the Rio Convention. Going forward, India would be happy to propose initiatives for greater South-South cooperation in addressing issue of climate change, biodiversity, and land degradation. Friends, you will be shocked to know that desertification affects over 2/3 of the countries of the world. This makes a compelling case for action on land front. Combine this with the water crisis facing the world. Because when we address degraded lands, we also address water scarcity. Augmenting water supply, enhancing water recharge, slowing down water runoff, and retaining moisture in the soil are all parts of a holistic land and water strategy. I call upon the leadership of UNCCD to create a global water action agenda which is central to the land degradation neutrality strategy. Friends, restoring the health of land is critical for sustainable development. Today, I reminded of India's NDCs that were submitted at the Paris COP at the UNFCCC. It highlighted India's deep cultural roots of maintaining a healthy balance between land, water, air, trees, and all living beings. Friends, it would make you happy that India has been able to increase its tree cover. Between 2015 to 2017, India's tree and forest cover had been increased by 0.8 million hectares. In India, any diversion of forest land for development purposes has to be compensated by making an equivalent land mass available for afforestation. It is also required a monetary payment of the value of timber which such forest land would have yield. I'm happy to share that only last week, funds amounting to nearly $6 billion means 40 to 50,000 crore rupees have been released to the provincial governments in lieu of such diversion for development of forest lands. My government had launched a program to double the income of farmers by increasing crop yield through various measures. This includes land restoration and micro irrigation. We are working with the motto of per drop, more crop. At the same time, we are also focusing on zero budget natural farming. We have also introduced a scheme to determine the soil quality of each of the farms and are issuing soil health cards to farmers. This enables them to grow right type of crops, fertilizers, and use the right quantity of water. So far, about 217 million soil health cards have been distributed. We are increasing the use of biofertilizers and reducing the use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. Water management is another important issue addressed LDN. We have created Jal Shakti Ministry to address all water-related important issues in totality. Recognizing the value of water in all forms, we enforce zero liquid discharge in many industrial processes. The regulatory regime provides for treatment of wastewater to a degree that it can be put back into the river system without harming life in water. Friends, I would like to draw your attention to another form of land degradation, which